I am an impoverished author who lives entirely by writing articles. I have no fixed income and no part-time jobs. The only source of income is selling articles. The writing career is not very comfortable, but I am tranquil and satisfied, and I don't feel it is a hardship. If I write articles behind closed doors, I can always write voluminous fictitious and infatuated novels, but I don't like to write works that lead people into an obsession. I like literature that is realistic and reflects the times, explores the truth and pursues the sublimation of human nature. These are more nerve-wracking and often take me a long time to think about or study data. Sometimes, I flip through the books and find the chapters all day but didn't write a word. Maybe this is just showing the clumsiness of an untalented person. I need a lot of time to study and write. Unfortunately, I still have to deal with so many chores every day, and as many as 20 or 30 letters, and also uninvited guests who come to ask questions at any time. All these deprived me of a lot of time to study. I least welcome those curious visitors who come to my door at any time without making an appointment. They often come and sit for hours and issue questions ranging from their health, career, love, marriage, fortune, to the whole family, and even the medical condition of distant relatives, studying abroad, immigration. Asking everything. They don't care that they have taken my academic study and writing time too much, and they don't know how to respect the personal freedom of others. They come as long as they are happy, as if they are browsing temples and seeing fortune tellers. Anyway, it was a kind of entertainment at no cost. Some people bought some fruits as a meeting gift, and I served them for a few hours and answered countless questions. Even though I talk till my mouth gets burnt or tongue gets rotten, I still unable to lead them to believe in Buddhism, show compassion, donate to charities or give alms to the sick. Their purpose is not coming to listen to my Dharma talk but just to see me, give me a test, and satisfy their curiosity. For this type of visitor, I will no longer welcome them, and I will never see them again, because they waste me too much time. They have ruined my mood for the entire day, and I can no longer restore peace to study. Fame is indeed not worth to be envied, and it brings endless troubles. When people heard that I have celestial eyes, they all came to ask for good luck and fortune. Those are secular people. Naturally, they are unbearably vulgar, thinking about secular infatuation, love, wealth, material enjoyment, etc., and they rarely come to ask me questions about Buddha Dharma or taking precepts. Only 3 Dharma masters came to sincerely discuss Buddhist sutras with me. For the aforementioned uninvited guests, I have posted a note on the door. If there is no appointment, please do not disturb, and also a note in English, by appointment only. For those who call to ask absurd questions, I will ignore them all. For letters with indecent intentions, I will also throw them into the trash can without answering. However, some uninvited guests accidentally drop in. They think I have an obligation to receive and often come with threatening attitude amid hypocritical politeness. If I refuse to receive them, they will leave resentfully, sometimes cursing a few words. Don't put on airs with us. What kind of Buddhist are you? Some curious visitors will seek relationships. They would bring the business cards of Buddhist celebrities, and some would bring the introduction letters of famous Dharma masters, making me have to give them face. However, after meeting, the host and the guest often break up in discord. For example, at the beginning of 1986, a young man in his 30s suddenly dropped in to see me, holding a letter of introduction from a Buddhist scholar in Hong Kong. I always respect and admire that Buddhist scholar, how can I not give him face? I received this young man. I opened the letter of introduction and it was written on it. Mr. G is interested in Zen and hopes to get some advice. I then talked to him about Buddhism for 3.5 hours, from the story of Fetch a Flower and Smile, to the development of Zen in the history. To the extent of my knowledge, I wholeheartedly guided him and persuaded him to learn from the Buddha he needs to dedicate it to nurturing bodhicitta, be compassionate, give alms to the poor, and help the sick and the lonely. I know that this young man came from a rich family. His father is a super rich person in a certain place. I hope he can influence his father to do more charity. This Mr. G is somewhat well educated, and he listened patiently to my Dharma talk. However, in the end, he suddenly said, "Layman Faun, do you really have celestial eyes?" "It turns out that your intention is not to listen to Zen Dharma," I said, "but just for curiosity. Then it took me 3.5 hours to introduce you. The Buddhist books are all in vain. I will naturally read Buddhist books in the future," he said, "but today I want to confirm whether you have celestial eyes or not. This is critical to me." "Why is it critical to you?" "If there is the ability of celestial eye really, it proves that it is worth to study Buddhism," he said, "otherwise, I won't get anything from studying Buddhism. It's not attractive to me at all. In other words, I have to make sure that I'm also able to cultivate celestial eye so that I am interested and determined to study Buddhism. Your starting point like this is already wrong." I smiled. Fundamentally, a Buddhist with right faith shouldn't pursue magical abilities. The so-called celestial eye and other magical abilities are just byproducts of spiritual practice. We should never learn Buddhism for the sake of gaining celestial eye or any magical ability. If you are not starting to learn Buddhism from Buddhist theory or Bodhisattva but only from shallow magical abilities, you will be very wrong. And you will enter the path of evil. But don't you claim to have celestial eye? Can you perform your celestial eye on the spot to convince me? I don't regard celestial eyes as a great magical ability, and I don't use celestial eyes as my main topic of propagating Dharma. I said, I just carry out the great mercy of the Buddha by means of celestial eye and expose the cause of the sickness of the world to help the world get rid of suffering and disease, eliminate evil causes, plant good causes, and apply with compassion. To be honest, this is the combined use of the celestial eye, the wisdom eye, and the Dharma eye, and it is not singly using the celestial eye. Avadamsaka Sutra, Flower Adornment Sutra, says that the Buddha has 5 kinds of eyes, namely, Buddha eye, Dharma eye, wisdom eye, celestial eye, and naked eye. The Buddha eye, which is something we can't expect, can see the truth of the infinite universe, and that's impossible to learn. At best, we can only learn the wisdom eye, the Dharma eye and the celestial eye. Moreover, it is not only Buddhism who cultivates the celestial eye, but heresy also has celestial eye. However, the celestial line of heresy lacks compassion and the grand vows of the Buddha. The devil also has celestial eye, and he can also see things thousands of miles away, but the devil does not carry out mercy. It is very different. If your purpose of studying Buddhism is only to learn celestial eye, then you will be easily tempted by demons. The devil and other demons will soon come to teach you the ability of celestial eye, making you a slave to demonic desires, and you will never be freed. In short, if a Buddhist student comes for magical abilities, he will fall into the deceit of the demon and the evil. Therefore, the Buddha warned Moggalliyana to not randomly use magical abilities. Therefore, many great masters also warn those laity to have right belief rather than pursue magical abilities. I do not pursue magical abilities either, nor dare I randomly use magical abilities. You asked me to show the ability of celestial eye on the spot. I dare not to respond to your request. My subtle third eye competence is reserved to mirror the causes of the world's miserable karma and persuade people to nurture bodhisattva and carry out compassionate vow. I'm still not convinced. He said, why should I learn Buddhism? You should read some introductory Buddhist books first and then the Buddhist sutras. You'll naturally be convinced. I said, if I perform magical abilities, even if that convinces you, it is not the original intention of Buddhism. Forgive me for not obeying your order. He grinned reluctantly, pointing to the side pocket of his suit trousers, and said, anyway, I want you to show your magical ability, so that I'm convinced and feel this trip is worthwhile. Can you tell me what is inside my pants pocket? People say that you have X-ray eyes and you should be able to see through the contents of my pocket. Although he was graduated from the Department of Physics, this rich young boss did not read my thesis, The Proof of Nuclear Physics and Buddhism in Space Science, but insisted on me to show the ability of celestial eye. After all, he is a wealthy young boss with dandy habit. He has to get whatever he wants. He actually had no affinity to the right faith in Buddhism. Perhaps he was more or less influenced by his family. I smiled and said, "The inside of your trouser pocket is nothing more than a purse, which contains some ID cards, car and house keys, business cards, credit cards, photos of your wife, some banknotes. Sort of things. Everyone has basic common sense. Why do they need celestial eye to observe? Is the ability of celestial eye so cheap and abused?" He took out his purse from his trouser pocket and still asked unconvincedly, "How much money is in this purse? How many bills of what denomination are there? If you say right, I will believe you. You might as well go to the nightclub to watch the magic show." I said, "I am sorry for not answering your question. Don't you think you are trying to neglect the root and pursue the tip?" I stood up to see off the guest. He left resentfully, and I didn't urge him to stay. This young man had listened to my Dharma talk for nearly 4 hours, but he still didn't wake up. It was a complete failure of me. No wonder the New Testament of the Bible also says, "It is harder for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven than a camel to pierce a pinhole." Can't I see through the contents of his wallet? I can even see through his body. Every bone and every nerve is as clear as looking at my palms. But I refuse to abuse my third eye ability like this. My third eye is not a pastime for the rich. The millionaire, the father of the rich young boss, later came to Vancouver to visit the World Exposition. Some overseas Chinese associations here scrambled to flatter him, vying to welcome him, and even held dragon boat races for him. The super rich old Mr. G, with a wealth of hundreds of millions of dollars, announced that he would use $500,000 as the top prize for a chess competition, which became a sensation in the local headlines throughout North America. If I were that rich, I would not waste my energy like that. I will donate $500,000 to charities, such as the International Red Cross and Buddhist charity hospitals, to help the poor, sick, and refugees. How many lives can $500,000 save? Isn't it more meaningful than donating to a chess champion? Their hearts are really beyond our understanding. Of course, that is his money. How he likes to spend is his business. People in this world are like this. Many poor people are daydreaming and hope to win the lottery prize of more than $10 million to help the poor. Unfortunately, most of them didn't win the prize. And those super rich people would rather spend $1.5 million to gamble, enjoy, or award prizes to some chess champion than help the suffering. This super rich has been in the limelight. However, it seems that he only has the wealth and glory in the next few years. In the future, how much money can he bring with him? I can't help sighing. I expect someone will ask me to serve him with my celestial eyes. Sure enough, a trusted subordinate of him called to summon me. Needless to say, I determinedly refused. "Do you want me to diagnose for Mr. G?" I replied, "If a check of $10 million is issued and donated to the International Red Cross for relief of both poor refugees and patients, then I will be glad to serve him. Otherwise, other than that, I will not serve him no matter how much money you give me. I don't want his money myself." "You have such a big tone," said the other party. "Do you really have any ability?" "I have no ability," I said, "but have only compassion, learning from the compassionate heart of the Buddha. I hope that he will donate more to help the poor and suffering, and plant benevolent causes for himself and his descendants. Then, he may be possible to escape the dangers of these 4 years of serious illness." In other words, to save the lives of sentient beings is to save his own life. That's a joke. The other party was angry. You are such a quack. How do you know what's wrong with him? Then he hung up the phone right away with a bang. Of course I know what is wrong with this rich man. His lymph gland cancer has been very serious, and it seems that he has only 3 or 4 years lifespan left. I want to lead him to do benevolence to prolong his life for himself. However, obviously, these words won't reach his ears at all. There is destiny for everything. I know that he can be regarded as a good person basically, and he has done some social welfare. If my words can reach his ears, maybe he will consider shifting his focus on public welfare for angling for fame to charity for relieving the suffering of the poor. Unfortunately, we don't have affinity for each other. I have never asked alms to this type of rich man. I have never got a coin from the young boss G, nor have I been able to persuade his family to donate to charity. This type of super rich people value money the most, and they are not as good as ordinary well-off families to do benevolence. On the contrary, a poor person is often generous and compassionate to donate a few dollars he merely owns in the pocket to charity or rescue the sick in the hospital. I, therefore, do not welcome those super rich people. It is also difficult for them to see me. On the contrary, I always try to help the poor people and the suffering. I don't remember how much money I had spent on postage to answer those poor patients. My writing income is only 100 to 200 Canadian dollars per month, which is not enough for my expense on this kind of postage. Sometimes, I have to buy medicines or nutraceuticals and send to the destitute or the sick for free. But I know that the most thorough and fundamental, and best way to solve poverty and disease is to observe the Buddhist precept of no killing, stop eating meat. Cultivate great compassion, and be generous to save yourself from the suffering, and attain health and longevity. I can no longer sacrifice my academic and writing time for a few dozens or hundreds of people's questions and letters. Lifespan is short and precious. I must close the door, study the sutra materials, explore the truth. With writings, I will ferry and transform thousands of people and spread the truth of Buddhism all over the world. The Buddhist sutras mention the metaphors of needle and mustard. For example, in the southern version of Nirvana Sutra, there is a sentence. The birth of the Buddha in the world is so rare that it's like throwing a mustard seed on the needle. The explanation is: set up a needle in the ground with its tip upward and cast a mustard seed from the heaven and it falls on the needle tip. This is very difficult. Moreover, hearing the Dharma and having deep faith in Buddhism is even more difficult than that. The analogy of the Buddhist sutras is to show that it is difficult to meet the birth of a Buddha in the world, and it is also used as an analogy for the difficulty of the worldly people to have faith in Buddhism when hearing the Dharma. This analogy is very close to what Jesus said in the New Testament of the Bible, that it's harder for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven than for a camel to pierce a pinhole. I feel that I am so incompetent that I can neither throw mustard seeds on the tip of the needle nor pull the camel through the pinhole. Fortunately, the general public, especially the new generation of educated young people, are more and more aware of Buddhism and embarked on the path of practicing Buddhism. Many of them are dedicated to nurturing compassion. In this way, the future of Buddhism seems bright and hopeful.